Hello James, and welcome, and thank you so much for this exclusive interview. Please tell us something about your biography.
Hi, Sarah. It's so nice to be with you. Thank you for the opportunity to have this interview with you. It's so nice to be chosen amongst your other artists and designers that you're interviewing. Greetings from New York. A little bit about my biography. My interest in art started quite young, and I always loved to draw. And my interest in fashion grew from that interest in drawing. With 5 sisters and a mom who all had an interest in fashion in one way or another, being surrounded by them, and also one of my sisters would get fashion magazines delivered to the house. So I found myself being influenced by the magazines and looking at them, and from that I started my own line of greeting cards, which I made in my home studio, which eventually turned into a little shop in our home, where neighbors, friends, family would come in and buy greeting cards from me. And from the greeting cards started a t-shirt business, which I first started designing shirts from my father's t-shirts. I would take paint and sort of splatter them and bead them, and from that, selling a number of them, that sort of encouraged me to start my own t-shirt business, which blossomed as a teenager and in high school. I had several fashion shows in high school where the students would model, and I also sold to several stores that I went into to sell the shirts, and also a store that I worked in part-time as a high school student. So it was just sort of a very natural evolution and interest in art, drawing, and then it turned into a real passion for fashion design. And from there, I went to college, to FIT, and to Parsons School of Design in Manhattan, which were both excellent experiences. And I was also working at several design houses, including Marc Jacobs, where I learned all the facets of fashion design and assisting designers, producing collections from textiles to being inspired by vintage clothing that would come in from around the world, that I would photograph, and then attending his fashion shows, which were always and still are some of the best in New York Fashion Week. That's a little bit about my biography. I continue to just sketch and to illustrate and do custom orders for clients.
James, what are your future ambitions? Did you have a wish dream?
So for the question, do I have any future ambitions or a wish dream? Well, as an artist, I'm very sensitive to what's going on in the world, and so sort of a wish dream would be world peace. That was an ideal wish to have, and I think that through artistic expression. We sort of show our dreams and what we sort of how we view the world and how we wish the world could be possibly. So I hold the possibility that there could be a time of more peace. It's important to, as an artist, as a designer, to be very sort of connected with what's going on in the world from an observational viewpoint, but to also sort of hold the space for possibilities. And I think that that is most evident in one of my artworks recently, which I called Peace, and it was a drawing of a dove with an olive branch in its mouth, which is, the symbol for world peace. So while these things aren't always achievable immediately, we can still dream and hold these intentions in our heart, and show people that this is an option. So that is something that I hope I can convey in some of my pieces. Other ambitions that I have would be to create more artwork. That's really the ultimate for every artist, is to continue to express yourself in a way that people find receptive, and they can look at your artwork and feel something from it. So I do have a few pieces that I will show you. These are recently framed prints that I've had made, and there might be a reflection on them. So this is one, which is a couture drawing of a woman in a beautiful evening coat and a short mini dress. And I can bring it in a little closer to show there's a little reflection. These framed prints are all available on my Etsy site, which you can find the link through my Instagram, James Thomas Ryan. And they're all beautifully framed, and they're really so nice to put in one's home, in one's space. And this is another drawing that was also influenced by the haute couture. This was a Giambattista Valli gown that I sort of did in watercolor, and I focused on the lace bodice, which is sheer, and the model had sort of very short haircut, and so there's a lot of movement in the sleeves, and variation in the fabrication. We show you the highlights and all the details. So this in what's called a recessed frame, in that the picture is back a little bit further from the frame. This is also available on my Etsy site, which I recently opened. So that's another one. And then this one is a framed print from a session that I attended online, an online model drawing session. The model was actually in England, and it was a Shakespearean garden theme, and so we each drew her from our homes, and I decided to draw her in a watercolor. So it's very sort of light, beautiful colors. And this is also in a recessed frame, which pushes the artwork back a little bit. It puts the frame in the front so it looks more dimensional. And I have my things done in a very high quality manner, and the frames have a nice thickness to them, and they're ready to be displayed in one's home, one's space. And then I have this one here, which was originally a drawing of model Tatiana Batiste in a Dolce & Gabbana corset, all beaded, and then I decided to add the her jacket on top. And for me, it's really all about showing details in the drawing, and a particular mood is captured, and this one is quite sensual, I think, with her looking up and her eyes closed. And it's always about the pose, it's about the mood. And I love how this was framed to offset the black jacket.
Do you have planned any other projects for the future?
Some projects for the future, it would be great to have some collaborations with other artists. I do have an interest in storytelling with fashion, and I'm going to be working on some custom pieces for people. Some really interesting ones, including a couple who attended Studio 54, and the illustration is going to be inspired by their time there. So I'm looking forward to that, because the 70s is a big influence on me, including, Halston, and fashion from that decade is really interesting to me. Many of the decades are. Each decade holds its own special times and things that stand out about each decade. I did teach the decades for many years to students in a program that I designed myself, and it was a very rewarding experience. And many of my students went on to study in fashion college, such as FIT. So passing on the knowledge is sort of important. And one thing that I told my students is that information is power, and to be informed, about what's going on in the world. Not so much that it's something that you watch constantly, but so that you do know what's going on in the world, so it can inform your work. Because it's very important to be of the moment. And just from studying fashion, the best designers really reflect the times. So I do see collaborations in my future, and I also see storytelling in fashion as being important, including possibility of costume design. Something like that interests me, in how clothes are made for period pieces, movies, things like that. So I find that fascinating.
How do you see the future in the fashion industry?
I see it becoming hopefully more sustainable in terms of the fabrics that we use. I hope that we can recycle more fabrics because there is a tremendous amount of waste in terms of clothing that is thrown away. And if you think of, materials that can be recycled, it's sort of an endless possibility of recycling, because clothes can be made from so many things. If you study fashion, you can see clothes made from plants and clothes made from, recycled bottle caps and all sorts of things. So I think that we're going to be seeing more of that in the future. One place that I think does a really great job with materials is Uniqlo. I go there often, and their fabrics are very high tech in that they have heat tech, which can keep you warm in the winter, and airism, which keeps you cool in the summer. So this is actually reminding me of a project I did 25 years ago, where I said, at the time, I said the future of fashion is going to be in the fabrics and their ability to keep you warm and cool, and that actually happened. So it's very interesting to me that we're sort of there already. And you can actually wear these clothes now. So that to me is very fascinating. And of course, technology is going to continue to influence fashion and the way it's shown. The fact that we can stream, videos live now on Instagram, and you don't necessarily have to be at the show to really get like a front row seat. Except there really is nothing like being at a live show. There's something very exciting, very much like being at a concert or a live performance. But the fact that you can be halfway around the world and watch a fashion show and keep up with the shows that are going on in New York when you live in France or Germany is really has made the world a smaller place, in that we are all very connected by technology. I hope that there are more opportunities for young designers to sort of express their points of view, because it does take a lot of backing and things like that to start a line. So I hope that the fashion industry will find ways of supporting young designers, and with apprenticeships and things like that. It's important to, I think, apprentice with designers to learn from them, from established designers, and that is part of one's education. And I think technology is just going to continue to influence fashion in many ways, and I've already seen AI, being used in its use of designing digital prints, things like that. But to me, nothing will ever replace the human eye, the human hand, the human heart. But it is fascinating to think about it.
You're also an illustrator and have created your own advertising campaign for the New York Times and Hamptons magazine. Please tell us something about it.
My ad campaign for the New York Times and Hamptons magazine came about from a collaboration with the owner of a store called Sabrina, and it was sort of based loosely on the movie Sabrina with Audrey Hepburn. So I created, in collaboration with the store owner, the character in the ads, and I created her from scratch through sketching, and she developed over time. And then we added her dog to the mix, who became part of the ads. And the ads were featured in the New York Times in the style section and Hamptons Magazine in New York. They were often done in color in the magazine and black and white for the New York Times. And it was a series of ads that lasted a number of years and went through quite a few seasons. So it went through the holidays and her carrying gifts, wearing a red trench coat, to wearing a little polo top and capri pants and sandals, and then wearing like a winter coat and long pants. So it was a whole wardrobe, and it was really almost like creating paper dolls, because each season her new outfit would be sort of attached to the storefront that I created. So the storefront basically stayed the same each season, but her outfit changed, and the dog's outfit changed, and the flowers in the pot changed. It was either a Christmas tree or mums or little flowers. So there was a lot of research, a lot of collaboration, going back and forth, and some really great illustrations came out of that time. And it was always very exciting to have them published in the Times. I would run to get a copy, and I still have the copies of those ads. I also went on to do some wine bottles, CD covers, and those were really fun collaborations too. One with a menswear drawing that I did. I still see it as one of my favorite drawings. So you can see some of these on my Instagram at James Thomas Ryan, and then James_Thomas_Ryan. So I hope you'll follow me.
You were an assistant designer in all parts of product collection and fashion shows. What advice would you to give fashion students today?
If I was to give advice to fashion students today, we live in a very different time than when I went to school. It was very competitive at the time when I went to school, and I would say it's even more competitive now. I have even specifically helped students prepare their portfolios for their interviews at college. So I would say to work with someone who has been in fashion school on your portfolio, because that is what the school is going to be seeing, and it's very important that you make a very, very strong impact with what you're showing. I was fortunate at the time in that I was going to an art school outside of high school, and so I was able to create a portfolio specifically for FIT, and I also was studying fine art. So I had those two things, plus I had a t-shirt business, and so I brought examples of all of my work with me. Now it's different in that they want very specific things. They want to see very specific things, and it's important to figure out which school you want to go to. There are some really good choices in every part of the world. So figure out what would be the best fit for you. And then I would say to tailor your portfolio for that school and to try to get into a really good school, because a fashion education is your foundation for your future, and you want to have a very strong foundation. If it's possible, before you even start college, if you're in high school, for instance, there are classes given at certain colleges, like for instance at Parsons. There are summer programs where high school students can attend Parsons in the summer and take classes. I would say take as many classes as you can. I would say study fashion inside and out, because like I said, it's more competitive now than it's ever been, and you want to have as much information, arm yourself with information in the form of the history of fashion, in the form of the state of the world and culture, pop culture, music, not just fashion, but art. Immerse yourself in these things and figure out who you are in the mix, and experiment with how you dress, how you express yourself. Figure out who you're dressing and try to look beyond just dressing yourself. Because when you're in school, the focus is going to be on who is your customer. And while it could be yourself, you want to look beyond and just having yourself as your only customer. You want to appeal to an audience. And then I would say it's important to edit yourself a little bit and to make things that really express who you are and really commit to who you are as a designer and as an artist, whether you go for art or fashion or any of these things. Commit to your vision. Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. And even if you don't get into, say, your first pick of a school, make the best of wherever you go. Make the best of it. And if you go to school in a large city like I did in New York, sort of make New York your playground in terms of sightseeing, exploring the city in the day and the night, seeing what the nightlife is like, the club culture, the night culture, museums. Don't put limits on yourself. Don't put any limits on yourself, especially when you're young and you have the freedom to express yourself. That is the time to really have a lot of fun. Because sometimes as we get older, we have to focus a little bit more on our specialty. And when you're a student and when you're young, you have the freedom. So enjoy yourself, have fun with it, meet other designers, meet other artists, create, collaborate, and above all, enjoy yourself. because that's really the whole point, is that you are enjoying what you're doing. That's my advice to young designers.
You have worked with many design teams, including Marc Jacobs, Betsy Johnson, and Gemma Kang. Which designer would you also like to work with?
There are so many great designers that one would want to work with. And if I think of them, I have to include some that have passed on, because we've had some really incredible designers among us, and many of them who are not with us anymore. A few that I would have loved to have worked with include Yves Saint Laurent, who was one of my favorite designers. His use of color and proportion, shape was really always so impeccable, so beautiful, and elegant. His work always had an elegance and a mystery to them. They're, so French in terms of everything about them. They have a mystery to them, and very classic style. So Yves Saint Laurent is one from the past. I always loved the work of Gianni Versace, who I did have the opportunity to meet one time at a book signing, and he signed my book of his in metallic marker, and we had our photo taken together, and that was several years before his very tragic passing. Another very fascinating designer is Alexander McQueen, who I saw his retrospective 2 times at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Just an incredible designer, ingenious, and in his use of his techniques, his fabrications, his themes, his proportions, his tailoring was impeccable. He was trained on Savile Row in England, so he had that impeccable tailoring in his work. I also always loved the work of Geoffrey Beene, an American designer, Geoffrey Beene, who is no longer with us, but his work was always very wearable and very American, but it had a couture finish to it. And he would often pair materials together, menswear materials with more feminine materials, and mix them together. And he was also very influenced by dancers. He would, for his shows, he would have ballerinas wear his clothes because he was interested in weightlessness of his fabrics. So those are a few people who have passed on, who I find really fascinating. And someone who was really an amazing living designer, I think, is John Galliano, that we all recently saw in his collection, especially for Margiela, for the House of Margiela. That was a collection that I think will be referenced and looked at and studied for many years. The techniques that he used in his fabric choices, the details, the styling, the makeup to make the models look like they had faces like porcelain dolls, and that, they were very shiny. That was created by Pat McGrath. But John Galliano, his thought process, his research that he's always brought to each collection is very thoughtful, very ingenious. These are people who I find really interesting, exciting. They keep you guessing each time they show a collection. I also find Reiko Akubo of Comme des Garçons very interesting, and her collections, her proportions. She had a show at the Met, and her proportions. It's really like each piece is an art piece, is a walking art piece. Her collection with the bumps that come out from the body and create an alternative form from the usual human form. She created her own kind of language through fashion, her own world. So it's very interesting to observe these people, to study them. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to have this interview. It's been really nice to share our thoughts together on the topic, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the future very soon. Thank you.